Hi everyone, my name is Christy and I'm here with Moment and Breath. And today we are going to talk more about the trauma triangle, which I introduced in the last and first episode. And we're going to talk about what to do again, right? What to do, because it's a really tricky place we're all kind of stuck in. So I am a licensed therapist here in America, and all week so far there has been a theme to how people are doing. When I ask them how they're doing, the answer is tired. Tired this week. Now where I live, where my clients and I live, it's winter. It's the end of winter. And so, part of that answer is I'm tired of winter. I'm tired of, having to keep my body warm. I'm, tired of the seasonal sadness. So that's part of it. The other part of this is I'm tired of this state of the world, right? I'm tired of being in this place where I keep seeing bad things happen and sadness, and I'm just tired of it. And so, this sadness that people are, it's not just my clients, this is across the board, right? This is a theme. And it's not just for people who live in the winter climate either, but for people who are out there who are just sad, right? One concept to think about in reflection of being sad is this trauma triangle, right? When we think of what's going on in the world and in here in this country, and all the bad things that are being talked about and being exposed and whatnot, the sadness, um, the ideas of what to do with what is making us sad is, well, let's, seek justice, right? Let's, let's use the current institutions and systems that we are currently living in to, um, you know, to answer what to do, to seek justice, to figure out this is, what is the solution here to the problems. And so where does the trauma triangle come into play here? So the trauma triangle is, there's 3 tiers of nervous system regulation. There's shutdown, there's stress, and then there's relax. And the trauma triangle lives up here in shutdown. The trauma happens when somebody or community is not effectively able to utilize their stress system, their fight or flight response, to change what's happening to them, right? To change the situation, to get out of danger, right? To basically stop what's happening, change the outcome. And so when somebody or community isn't able to utilize their stress response, they get stuck in shutdown up here, and they enter into this trauma triangle. The trauma triangle hosts 3 roles. I'm gonna talk about it from down here so I don't have to always put my hands up there. But in the trauma triangles, that there's 3 roles. There's the victim role, right, where something has happened to somebody, something bad has happened to somebody. They're the victim of the situation. There's also there's different words for it, but the persecutor, it's predator, the prosecutor, the perpetrator, well, basically the person, the aggressor, right? The person who's doing the harm, right? And then the third role is the rescuer or the savior, right? So the person or community that is trying to save whoever, whatever is in this circumstance, right? Trying to save the situation. So when thinking about what to do, thinking about, okay, what's in the news, right? I'm sad about the news, and sad about the state of the world. When thinking about what to do, try to think about if you're stepping into one of these 3 roles. And anybody can be in any one of these roles. When you're shut down, you're not able to utilize your stress response to get out of the situation. You're helpless, you're feeling helpless, hopeless, powerless, inadequate, inferior, not good enough, you're what have you, right? Whatever state is or thoughts are coming up that you feel powerless to, think about if you're in one of these roles, and somebody can be in one role 1 second and the next role in another second. Somebody can be in 2 roles at the same time, right? Somebody can fall victim to an unfortunate or sad situation, a wrongful situation, and then internalize blame about what happened, and then form an inner critic, and and then be mean to themselves, right? And maybe hate themselves. And that's both being in victim and being in that perpetrator role, right? So somebody could be in both, or in the savior role, right? Savior is when a community or somebody is trying to use their own power to change the outcome, or to resolve the situation, as opposed to helping whoever is in the trauma triangle already get out by their own means, right? So sad news, bad news, back to it. Again, right? Why people are tired, right? It's draining them. They're feeling powerless, feeling like they can't do much about what's going on. If you find yourself in that state right now, ask yourself, what would you do if you were in charge? And whatever that answer is, I would ask myself, okay, is that answer putting me in one of these 3 roles, right? Am I trying to save somebody in the situation by means of my own power and then walk away, right? And and then they depend on you, and you but you hold all the resources and you hold all the skills. So you come in and you rescue them, you give them resources, and then what, right? And then they depend on you, right? So if your answer is I want to help out, which thankfully a lot of people's answer is that, right? That's what's so sad. Think about what it is that you're doing, how it is that you're helping, from a place of how sustainable are my efforts for this person or for this community, so that they may regain their own power and their own self-sufficiency again, so as to not create another power imbalance, right? Same with, let's say if you answer this hypothetical question, if I were in charge, what would I do about, this situation or that situation? If your answer is, I would seek justice, I would use an available system. Let's say one of the justice systems available, and this is by no means this is no suggestions from my part about what to do, but if you are thinking, well, maybe about this particular situation or that particular situation, maybe send them to jail, right? Incarceration, right? That's the solution. That's how you seek justice. So if that's a thought of yours, then I would ask myself that same question: am I in this trauma triangle? Am I carrying out one of those roles or multiple? If incarceration is your answer, is the solution, that's what you believe, then my question to you is, then how is the person who's now in jail seeing you? Likely what's happened is that you've become the perpetrator, right? Because you are taking power away from somebody else, right? So I'm not making any sort of opinion or statement about that I have or anything about incarceration. This is just about thinking through, what position, what role am I in with the solutions that I'm coming up with? If you're identifying that you're in one or multiple of the roles, then I would consider, I would reroute, right? And having this conversation, what I could see happen is then people say, well, what do I do? Right? I don't know what to do then, right? And then it's the same question back. Okay, now what role are you in? Right? That sounds like the victim role to me. I feel helpless to these problems. I don't know what to do, right? I've lost my power, my ability to get out of the situation, right? And so, what the idea is from here is to think about what world you want to live in, right? If your solution keeps you up here where there's a chronic power imbalance, then what that is saying is then you'll be continuing to live in a power imbalance if you choose that solution. So think about what world you want to live in, right? How you want to feel, how you want to connect with others, if you do want to connect with others, and by what means do you want to connect with others by, right? If it's, I want to connect with others in a loving way, then, you're talking about living in a world where people are capable of loving, right? I want there to be kindness and understanding. Well, that would be then a world, thinking about or wanting to live in a world in which people are capable of empathy, right? Um, and then think about how close you are to that world that you want to live in, right? Is it feasible? Is it possible? Are you the majority, right? In an evolutionary stance, right? Are you the majority in which, is that trait the majority in which, could survive, right? Um, I like to believe, and based on my observation, my sense, I do believe that the majority of people are capable of empathy and love. Um, and I do believe there are people in this world that are not capable of these things because they just don't have that trait. They don't have that trait. We're talking about antisocial personality. We're talking about, narcissistic personality, right? Where not in a sense of these people care about some people, but not other people. That's actually, people are capable of empathizing and caring for other people, but they're selective about it, and they just don't care about the people they don't select. Versus versus somebody who lives their whole life without even having an understanding of what empathy or love feels like, right? They don't have that capability, right? If somebody asks you for $1, you don't carry cash anymore, right? You don't have $1. You just cannot give that $1 because you just don't have it, right? So I personally believe that there are more people who are capable of these things that I want to succeed in this world, which is a trait of empathy, a trait of love, right? The thing about it is, if I continue to lose my power to what is not within those traits, right, then I'm not helping to create a world full of love and empathy, right? I'm not aligning with that, right? I'm not helping us evolve into that reality, right? That world. And the way to stay attached to what is not aligned with what you want to see is to stay in this trauma triangle, right? If if incarceration is your answer, then you'll have to be okay with somebody else seeing you as the evil, right? As the predator, as the person who's harming, who's oppressing, who's taking their power away, right? And if that's the world you want to live in, that's the world you want to live in, right? I'm not here to make opinions or judgments about that. I just know what the world that I want to live in, and I'm trying to get there, right? So yeah, I hope this is making sense. So think about that, right? Think about when you're feeling misaligned with what's going on in, with a certain situation or situations, right? And you think about what to do about that, what you come up with, ask yourself if you're in shutdown, if you're in one or multiple of these roles, right? Are you perpetuating this cycle of power imbalance, right? Or is your solution stepping out of that, right? And into something, more of what you want to see? I want to see a world that's where love is a primary trait and where action is taken on love, um, pure love and kindness, right? Where we don't have to feel threatened. We don't have to fear that when we can just support, what people are doing, because we see that the intention is out of kindness and love, right? And that people are capable of doing that, right? And so the decisions that I make, the mindset, the frequency, the thoughts, the emotions, the solutions, you name it, I'm constantly trying to adjust myself, my nervous system, bring it to a relaxed state, make sure that I'm not losing my power to whatever it is that I don't want to see, and making sure that I'm regaining my power by focusing all of my energy and effort into what it is that I do want to see, right? And that's, it can be really powerful. Um, you don't have to have a massive impact or, global influence. You don't have to be famous or popular or a lot of people know you, however you want to say it, right? Um, I wouldn't underestimate the impact that you have by impacting maybe one other person who impacts maybe two other people, who impacts maybe 10 other people, who, so on and so forth, right? So, um, if we all just kind of walk away from, what we don't want to give our power to, and we put more of our power into what it is that we do want to see, then maybe evolution will just work itself out, right? Um, so anyway, here's my thought. Here are my thoughts. Here are my perspectives. This is again a theme that I've heard this week, and so I hope it's helpful for you too. And let me know if you have any thoughts or questions, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.